All right, nice.
Yeah, I've got that.
So, yeah, like I said, there's a bit of a mixed variety of ability amongst this group today. So I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. But before we start, there are
Good job.
a few.
Good job, Tom.
Hopefully, it starts off a little bit intimidatingly. I'll just warn you. But I just wanted to go over the SharePoint structure with everyone, just so you're aware of these concepts when I'm talking about them later. So broadly speaking, each department within ARAG has a different site collection as their departmental page. And then there are subsites coming off of these. So the example I've given here is slightly out of date because it was based around the CMU department. But if we go onto the CMU SharePoint page, that is the root site, and then underneath that there will be several other sites. So Agile Working is a site, CMU Claims, and there's another site for tools, for example. And then underneath those sites, you can have other sites again, and these are referred to as subsites, but subsites and sites are effectively the same thing. It might not make a lot of sense right now, but hopefully as I'm going through, I can talk you through that. So to start with, I'm going to go to this page that I'm going to be using as my example. I was trying to open it. Okay, one sec. Okay, so this is a SharePoint page that I'm going to be using as an example, and it is in very much almost identical to any of the other sites that we have. So if I go to the home page of the intranet and go to a departmental page, just so I can show you the site structure I was on about. So we can go to the IT page, and if you look at the top here in the URL, it just says site/IT. But if I go to the reports department, for example, the page at the top has changed from IT/reports. So that means that the reports is a subsite of the IT site. So what I like to do whenever I'm working with SharePoint in general, really, is to find out you can get quite a lot of information out of this the cog up in the top right hand corner. So although I like to see the home page of any site as actually being within the site contents. Sometimes you'll see it on the left-hand navigation down here. Apologies, I don't have a left-hand navigation on this site. But if you click on the cog at the top right-hand corner and click on site contents, that will show you all of the applications, the lists, libraries that are within that current site. And I'm going to go through and talk to you how you would create these and how you regularly be interacting with them, hopefully. So the first concept I wanted to cover is SharePoint lists. So SharePoint lists are very, very similar to Excel, really. They house information, data within columns and rows. So the SharePoint list example I've got here is just a list named SharePoint list that I've constructed. And we can have different views of the information within this. But to start with, in order to create a new list, you can go to the cog again and then add an app. And this will show you both document libraries and lists. And document libraries and lists are almost identical, apart from document libraries have just a file associated with them as well. But you can add new rows, but I'll show you how to create a new list, for example. So I'm going to click here, custom list, after going on add an app. I'm just going to call it my list and create. and then that will create it within site contents. It will exist here. So if I click on that list, you can see that it comes kind of pre-canned with one column, which is this title column. And I can add a new item to the list, and it will allow me to put in the title. So I can do that and click save. But chances are this isn't going to cover the vast majority of circumstances where you need more than one column within your list. So in order to add a new column, you can click on this list tab at the top. And it's important to note, so where I was at before, so this page, this is the most common situation in which you'll see a list. So it'll be a collection of data, and you see I don't actually have this tab up here like I do on here. So I have the items and list tab, which makes it very difficult for me to interact with it on this page as it is. If you're ever in kind of doubt like that, if you click on the list title, then it will actually take you to the actual page of the list. And you can see I've added some extra columns, but I'll revert to the earlier one just so we can see how I did that. So if I click on this create column, then it gives me a number of different types that the column can be. So in this original example, I've just got a free text field. I have a drop-down type, a multiple choice column, which I'll show you in a second. So if I go into this and I want to edit that, this would just come down and I have to pick one of the pre-selected values. The handler column, which is a person column, so I've just allocated that to people in my team. This is a date field, and there's a yes/no field as well. And then this length of cover is actually calculated. So much like Excel as well, you can use formulas to make calculations for you, and the syntax in how you prepare those formulas is almost identical to Excel. So if you have any Excel knowledge, that could come in use here as well. So I've decided I'm just going to make a new column called date. Think about it for a second, and then it gives me a few other options, but all of these are relatively straightforward. Required content contains information. Is this vital? A few questions about the formatting, and then once I've selected the values that I want there, I can click OK, and it will automatically be added to the default view of my list. So now if I go in to edit this list and go into the date column, I will have a little date picker, so I can kind of easily select which date I want to do, and then once you've made the changes, just click stop, and that should be you should be able to make your changes that way. So there are two ways in which you can edit list items in general, and I'm going to use this one because it's got a few more different types of columns that I want to cover. So the first one being the way that I just showed you. So if ever in doubt and you're not seeing any of these tabs or don't see the edit above the list, just click on the list title. Just click on the list title like this, and then it will take you through to a much more friendly kind of working interface. So yeah, you can edit to go through like this, and this is the most common way. Or if you want to deal with an item on the whole, so you have these dots right next to the first column. If I click on those dots, and then one of the options will be edit item. So if I go to that, then it would just take me to a form to be able to undertake the same operations. Some people prefer to see it this way, so the option's there if you want to use it. If I click save, and that's all okay. For creating new list items, there's the new list item, and I showed you how to do that a second ago. And deleting items is the other main one I want to cover. is the easiest way to do this is there's a tick box on the left hand side of the list. So if I click on a row, then I can either just go to the items tab up here and click delete item, or I can actually just select it there and then just click the delete key, and it will give me a prompt, and I can just click OK. You see, it's deleted it there. If you want to deal with multiple items all at the same time, there is a way to kind of select multiple rows. So if I click, normally I'm just using my standard left click at the moment to select these. So if I click on that one and then I click on this one, then I click on this one, it deselects them each time. So if I click on the top one and hold down Control, and then click on the bottom one, it will remember the selection I made before and just add the next one I've clicked on to my selected list. Then if I wanted to delete them, then I could delete multiple rows at the same time, for example. The same works with Shift as well. So if I hold down Shift and then click on the bottom one, it will select all of the rows in between the two that I've just selected. It just makes it a bit easier when dealing with lists in general. I revert back to here. So within this list, much like Excel, when you can add refiners to columns, I can sort any of these columns by wherever I want to, effectively. You can add filters, so it will only return items. So here, this inquiry type, if I only want to see claims, for example, I can click on the top bit and then click on the claim, and then it will only show claims. And yet again, if I want to discard the filter that I've made there, if I click on the top bit and click clear filters, then that will remove everything, and I should just get my normal view back. I suppose the one thing to note around lists as well is we can have different views of the same set of data. So here, for example, I have a start of cover, and then I have an end of cover, and then length of cover with this completed section in between. If I actually want to change that, and I want the start of cover to come after completed, so that they're next to each other and it's easier to tell, within the list tab at the top, you can click on Modify View, and this will give you an overview of all of the information that's currently being surfaced here. So if I want to swap these two around, I will change that to a 5, and then that automatically changes to a 4. It's important to note, I suppose, whilst in here as well, you can actually create some quite intelligent filters. So you can show items only where the following is true. So that's quite useful if you want to I don't know, allocate things to individual people. You can return it back so it's only them that will see it, and that is done a little bit lower down in this bit. So I can say show only when the following is true, and I wanted inquiry type to equal claim, for example. I'm not going to apply that for now, but that would return only where that is true. The items in which that is only true. So I'm going to click OK to save the changes to move these columns along, and you see it's reordered it by default. Alternatively, if you don't want to change the default view for everyone else, you can actually create your own view. So if you click on List and Create View, and then standard view. Don't worry about necessarily scrolling down notes all the way through this. I am recording this session, so it will be available online as well. And then you can give the name for a view. So, for example, if I wanted one with all claims, I just type in all claims there. I scroll down, and that the inquiry type to claim, all the way down to the bottom, and click OK. And you see there's only the one item there, and then this adds it to this bit here, just to the right of the search item. So there's a new view's been created around that. So that briefly covers the idea of lists. And to be honest, lists are probably about 80% of how SharePoint is built. I'm going to cover document libraries now, and a lot of it should be in large the same. So yeah, my first point is very similar to lists. So creating document library is also very similar to how you would create a list as well. So if I go to the cog and click Add an App, and that will come up with, so I've got document library, custom list, tasks, and then we have a number of other ones that you can add as well, but I would just click document library, call it something unique, and then we've effectively created a document library. So
can anyone do that then, Tom?
Not anyone can do that. It does require certain permissions to do that. Okay. So yeah, I wasn't going to dwindle on it for too long, because it's more about the interactions that we're going to have with the SharePoint document libraries. If you would like to create a document library, and you don't have the Add an App from the drop down here, either raise it with your SharePoint super user, or just come to me and we can review permissions and give you that requirement if it's appropriate.
Okay.
Cool. So yeah, this document library, yet again, I'm not getting any interaction. I'm not getting any of the drop downs that come up here. So I'm going to click on the document's title, which is going to take us through to the actual documents library. So yeah, like I said, it's very similar to a SharePoint list. There's some pre-configured information which comes through to show who's modified it. Who's modified it, when it was modified, and then it also talks about checkout status, which I'll get to in a second. But this is quite a useful one to modify the view on, because there are a number of other columns that are available there as well. So the created date, for example, so I'm just going to tick that and click OK, and then it will tell me when it was created, which isn't necessarily always the same as when it was modified. But hopefully that'll give you a little bit of an idea. So if, for example, to open the document, you can just click on the document, and then that will automatically launch. If it's a Word document, it will load within Word, and vice versa. So it's quite self-explanatory there. If I would like to upload a new document to this document library, the easiest way to do that is, especially when you have two screens, or three in some cases, and not just the one that I'm trying to go off, but you just open up the file that you'd like to upload within the File Explorer, and you can just drag and drop it onto the page. But if you look here, this has a small green icon next to it, now that I've added it, which kind of brings me on to the next thing. So SharePoint has checking in and checking out of documents. The idea being, if you're making changes to a document, you would check it out first, so that only you can make those changes, and other changes that someone else is going to make aren't going to override the changes that you're making. This does come with a downfall of when you re-upload it, it will sometimes automatic. It depends on the permissions on the document library, and then we have quite a lot of document libraries in place. So there is a chance that this green icon will be here now, and you see here it says checked out to Tom Lochran. So in order to rectify that, if I click on the dots next to the icon, and then click on the dots again, there's this option which is checkout, and I also get an option to discard my checkout. So perhaps I've made some changes, but actually I don't want to save those. I made a mistake, so you can discard any changes that you've made as well. But I'm going to check this in for now. So it gives you an option to add some comments to that. So if it's actually a working document, it's healthy to provide a bit of information about the changes you've made. If you click OK now, then that checkout status has gone away, and then other people will be able to see the changes I've made. Without clicking that check-in, other people won't be able to see that. So if I'm overwriting a file as well, so I've got this SharePoint subsites document, which is just an image, but I'm going to drag and drop it, and it gives me a prompt. What would you like to do? I would like to replace it. And yet again, it's checked out to me, so I'm going to go on the dots again, check in, click OK. And the last point I wanted to really raise on SharePoint document libraries is the versioning capabilities. So versioning, effectively, every time a new copy has been saved to a document library, it will create a new version of it, which is very useful for going back and seeing the previous alterations that have been made, and when those changes have been made, and by who. So in order to see that, yeah, again, it's the dots next to the item title. If you click on the dots again, and then this underneath checkout is version history. So by clicking on that, it will give me a pop-up of all of the changes that have been made, and if I click on any of those, it works a bit better with Word documents because it just opens them much easier. But it will give you a bit of information, who made the change, and if you click on any of these iterations, so this one, for example, that was the first version that I uploaded, I'll be able to actually go back and see the first version. So that's what people refer to if they're referring to versioning. You might hear that around SharePoint, or be asked to check a previous version of something. Within lists and libraries as well, we also have the option to search for documents, and this search works globally as well, I hope. So the SharePoint search is run it's run nightly. So yeah, I just found that document through the global search. So if I add this SharePoint trading notes minutes, it won't appear in the search results until tomorrow, because I've only just added it. That's just unfortunately, that's just the downside of the current version of SharePoint we're using. But hopefully that will improve as we move towards the cloud towards the end of this year and maybe next year. So if a document isn't coming up within your search results, don't panic. Chances are it is still there, but it won't have been indexed yet, and for it to appear in the search results. Okay, I'm going to end with a few little tips and tricks that I have either come across with, or people have found particularly useful when working with SharePoint, because it can be a bit foreign to start with. So the first of those is opening a document within File Explorer. So, sorry, who was it? Oh, no. Yeah, the first one sorry. Just have to get to the right place. So it's important when you're doing this, you need to, and what I mean by File Explorer is this window. So we can just view documents within here instead of within your browser. So if I have to be using Internet Explorer, and I'm going to go to this documents list, and then if I click on the Library tab, then about halfway along, maybe 3/4 of the way along, is this Open with Explorer option. So by just clicking on that, it will bring a pop-up of the documents actually within that document library, so we can see the two that that we have on that page as well. If you like,
Just to add to that, Tom, sorry, because that doesn't work if you're using Edge, does it?
No, it doesn't. It only works with Internet Explorer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is annoying because some things in SharePoint only work on Edge and not in Internet Explorer. So, but the thing is, if you only really have to do this once. So I've got this location now. This document section is one that I'm working with quite a lot. You can click this pin to quick access, and then it adds a link. So it's added a link within my quick access bar. I show this to people quite a lot, so I have quite a lot of pinned things here, but hopefully it's only the most relevant documents that you're actually using. And you see here I've got a section in ATE pinned as well. It just makes it a bit more familiar to work with. The next tip, so sharing documents with a colleague. So if you click on the dots, you will see this. The first thing here is a direct link to that document within SharePoint. If you send this to people, as I will see now, it will just prompt me to open that. It will give me a little pop up down the bottom, and it will just directly open the Word document. If alternatively you just want to give people a link to the item without it actually opening it, you can click on the dots and view properties, and this is a bit more of a concise kind of summary of what they're getting into before they actually kind of click on the link to open it within Word. And then if you copy that link to someone, that's a bit more friendly than just giving them the direct copy. Creating an alert. So this is, so you might have a document library that you want to keep an eye on as to who uploads whenever a new document is uploaded, whenever a document is modified, and it's quite easy for a user to be able to configure that themselves, but it's not the most intuitive place to find. So if you select the library tab and click on alert me, so you can set an alert for this library, and it gives you a nice little wizard that you can follow through. So you can choose the type of correspondence you wish to receive, the change type you're interested in. So any changes, you can only be notified when new items are added or items are deleted. And you can specify whether those changes are actually done by yourself. And then the final one is either to receive the notification immediately or get a summary of that after some time to prevent lots and lots of emails coming through to you. So once you've gone through this, you click OK, and then you will just get those notifications via email, rather than having to keep an eye on the SharePoint document library. The last one is about using SharePoint Search, but I vaguely covered that halfway through. So within the list itself, there is the option to search, but you can also, from any page within SharePoint, you should find the search box at the top. So if I search for reports, for example, the the reports subsite is one of the first ones that comes up. But we're currently working on these refiners as well. So at the moment, they're relatively out of the box. So we can have everything. We can have people, conversations, and then we have one for claims live as well. You get some refinement options as well about the type of document that you want to be received. But if you like newer refiners to be made, or you can think of any that might kind of enhance this whole searching process, please do let me know, and we can look into creating them for you. I think that just about covers me. I'm sorry if it was all a lot of information too fast, but I'm working under quite a short time frame. Does anyone have any questions about any of the content we just covered?
Not particularly, Tom. I wouldn't mind having a chat with you regarding how to add permissions to various folders within. Say, for example, my personalised SharePoint page and what have you. It's something that I need to really brush up on. A sort of Nat took us through it a week or so ago, and as usual with these sorts of things, I've forgotten everything he said.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind having a chat with you about.
You wrote. Sorry, I was going to say Tom wrote me a nice email actually, which explains that quite well.
Oh right. Oh okay.
Okay, I can. I'll forward that to you, Andy, and we can have a chat.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, fantastic.
All right.
Yeah, that'd be really useful. Thank you.
Nice. The information, did it seem to make sense, or is there any parts that didn't really make a lot of sense to people?
No, it all makes sense to me.
All right, good.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it's frustration of not knowing. Well, do I have to open it in Internet Explorer or Echo or Chrome or what have you? Because whilst you're going for that, I remember Nat said, well, we have to, in order to add permissions and what have you, have to open it and work with it in Internet Explorer. So is that going to change at all?
That will change in the future. So the more when we move to the newer version of SharePoint, that will come with that effectively. But I believe the only difference I know of, but between the two is that opening with Explorer. The majority of other kind of administrative aspects and even user interacting with SharePoint should be the same on Edge or Internet Explorer or Chrome. If in doubt, go to Internet Explorer basically, but it shouldn't make too much of a difference. It's only some very odd circumstances that it does.
Okay, that's fine. Great.
Okay, cool. If there are no other questions, I think I'll end this session then.
No, that's good for me. Thanks, Tom.
All right,
Cheers, Tom. Thanks.
I'll send you all a link with the upload once that's done. I should process it this afternoon and have it up there shortly. But